Well, Peggy Hubbard, how's it going?
It is going phenomenally well. Thank you very much, Matt, for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, for people who don't know, we're here in Galesburg at the
Yes.
WGIL studios,
Mhm.
and you are Peggy Hubbard. I am Matthew Rauschert. And so, for people who don't know, let's just backtrack into where you're from, what your upbringing was like. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am from Southern Illinois, below I-80.
So, that's South.
Yeah, that's way south. I'm 37 miles across the river from St. Louis.
Okay, great.
Belleville, Illinois, population 67,518. I know that for a fact because it's right outside my subdivision. I see it every day, so I
Yeah.
see that number. But backtracking, I'm born and raised St. Louis, Missouri. The number 6 child of 8 siblings.
Wow, that's a large family.
That's a large Catholic family.
Oh, my.
Brought up in the Catholic faith. My mother raised us all, single mother, left our father early when we were kids. He was very abusive. My mother picked up and ran with us, and we was brought up in the church, reared by our grandparents and our mother, and product at the St. Louis City School District, and lived through the desegregation and desegregation, rather, programs in St. Louis, and went to college, didn't like it, wasn't for me.
What were you trying to go for, Peggy, in college?
Nursing. My mother wanted me to be a
Okay.
nurse, but I didn't want to be a nurse. I wanted to be a cop. I didn't want to
Okay.
patch them. I wanted to shoot them.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
it wasn't for me, and I had a calling. I had a urge to want to be more, and I joined the United States Navy. Did not go well with my mother. I told her, Mom, you're not going to miss one child. You got 8 of us. One more. And she was, yeah, but you're my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
And tell my brothers and sisters that. But I joined the Navy back in I call it the Top Gun era.
Okay.
And I joined the Navy, was on actually it was in boot camp in Orlando, and went off to my first duty station, which is in Oakland, Alameda, California. Was on board the USS Samuel Gompers, and that was my first ship. It was a destroyer tender, and doing that and seeing this world gave me a great appreciation for the freedom I have here in America, and served my time in the reservists as well as active duty, 13 years. And I got out and I worked for St. Louis County Police Department in the court security program. And I got the urgent calling to want to do something else. So by happenstance, I took my sister to a job fair, and the IRS was hiring that day.
Oh, my.
And I got a job with them with my military experience and background. I got hired with them, and I served another 17 years with them.
And how'd you like working at the IRS?
It was not an easy job. It's not for everyone. It's a high pressure, high stress job, but it is very educational. I became one of the top tax law specialists in the St. Louis area. I taught a array of tax laws, corporate tax, excise tax, foreign tax, excise tax. The other one was Social Security, pensions and annuities, IRA, small business, inheritance tax.
Yeah, so
you
a lot
name
of
it.
learning.
A lot of
yeah.
knowledge, a lot.
Right.
And then I went over to the investigation part, audit division, and I became an instructor for the IRS and tax law, and I was a union steward. So,
Great.
and during that, in that years with the IRS, I went back into law enforcement, and I was working as a part-time cop for 7 years.
Wow. That's a work ethic.
It is a work ethic. I had 2 daughters that were going to college, so mom had to strap on the uniform, pin back on the badge, and get them through college, and I did.
Great.
Married to my husband of 32 years.
Congrats.
Thank you. He is a police officer who served in Ferguson.
Wow.
He is a decorated Medal of Valor recipient. He was shot in 2016, July 3rd, by Black Lives Matter activist organizer on a traffic stop. And being a cop's wife, the last thing you want is that knock at 2:30. I got that knock. And let me tell you, Matt, that was the scariest week of my life.
How critical was his condition, Peggy?
Critical. They knocked on the door, and they didn't have information regarding his injuries. They just came to the door and said, "We're sorry to inform you." And my daughter said I let out a scream she's never heard before. I don't even remember. And the guy said that he just wanted to kill a cop, and he didn't care who. And my husband, I tease him. I tell people I'm married to Wyatt Earp. My husband was shot on both sides of his body. It went above his vest, came out his back on the left, spun him around. He tried to shoot him in the head. He put his arm up to protect his head while pulling his service weapon. And he was shot through the back of the arm, and it came out the top of his chest on the other side. And it nicked an artery. So he was able to return fire as he ran away and left his child in the car. And my husband said the baby was covered in his blood from the spray.
Traumatic.
Yeah. And he survived that, but he has residual damage to his left. He can only raise his left arm up so high. He still has shrapnel in his left, and they're not able to go in and get it because it would cause more damage. So he opted to leave it, but he's still working.
Good for him.
He is still working.
You won't always see that.
No,
Yeah,
he is
that's
still
very
working.
admirable.
Yeah. And he survived the Ferguson riots and everything.
So how long after that did you start to get involved in politics? What was your introduction to politics?
Well, basically, let's go back just slightly. 2014 is when Mike Brown happened. And we were coming back from Sturgis, and we saw the cars flying down the highway. And they called my husband, Charlie, and said, "You need to get here. He's on the response team." It's a conglomerate of law enforcement officers from all over the metro area.
Right.
And he was there. And when I saw Obama elevate Mike Brown and pretty much slap the target on law enforcement's back, that got me off the bench and into this.
That was the day your
That
political
was the
career
day.
began.
That was the day.
So what was your first step into politics?
My first step was, as soon as that happened, I walked away before walk away wasn't even a thing. And I tell people I left the Democratic plantation.
So you were a Democrat up until this point.
Up until that point, I was a staunch dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. And as a Black American, I don't call myself an African American because I've been to Africa. And you know what they call us, Blacks from America in Africa? They call us Americans. So I call myself an American, a Black American, because
American is American. We all need to have an eye on that.
But if you have to put a color on it, that's what I am. I'm an American. That's what they call us. They said, no, honey, you're not African American. You're an American.
And African American, just to get into terminology, be somebody who immigrates from Morocco, gets their citizenship, and then they are an African American.
I have a friend who is white, who is from Johannesburg, who is a paramedic on the Swansea Fire Department, and he is from Johannesburg. And on his application, he marked African American because he is. He is
a citizen of an African nation.
Yes, he is. And that got me started. That made me really, really sit back and look at the Democratic Party in a whole, in a body. And why must I be a Democrat? Why can't I be something other than that? And looking back in hindsight, my first vote in high school, I never told my family members this, I actually voted for Reagan.
Why?
His ideology, his belief, God and country, family first, military, smaller government.
And that patriotic appeal reached you?
It reached me in high school.
Wow.
So my first vote.
And were you already looking to the Navy? Were you already wanting to be in the service?
I always had that
Patriotic.
want, yes, because my uncles served in the 1st Black Tank Brigade during World War
Beautiful.
II and liberated France and liberated Auschwitz. So they were there.
Wow. Do you have their stories on record?
I have their stories.
Beautiful.
And I always wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. And I always questioned, why am I a Democrat? I've always had this belief in God, country, and families, and in America first, smaller government, the whole 9 yards. And it resonated with me with Reagan. But I never said anything because as a Black American living in the inner city of St. Louis, you had to be a Democrat. That's it. Don't look around the corner. Don't peek under the rug. Don't look in the closet. You are a Democrat. That's it.
Those people on the other side, they're racists.
Oh,
Hoopla,
yes.
hoopla.
Yeah.
You see it all the time.
And people talk about they're not indoctrinating children at school with the ideology and the rhetoric of the Democratic Party. Yes, they are, because in high school, in the 80s, when the crust cooled, when I was in high school, way before you were born, my history teacher was my sister-in-law. She told us that, and she was a Carter delegate. She was a Mondale delegate. And the Democratic Party is the only party for us. And this is how bad the Republican Party is. And the Republican Party is going to destroy the Black community. And I ate it up with a spoon. I believed it.
It's easy to have a boogeyman.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they did this to us in high school. But Reagan spoke to me somehow. And I voted for him. And I never told anybody until I became a Republican that I voted for him. He was my very first vote.
It's beautiful. So
Yeah.
back to the timeline, you had this whole experience.
Yes.
You decided to come back to the Republican Party
Yeah.
after being a Reagan fan as a child,
Mhm.
or well younger. So what happened then? What was your first public office? How did you?
Well, the first thing I did was I went down to my St. Clair County Courthouse and I changed from a Democrat to a Republican. That's the first thing I did. Then I became an election judge. I mean, I threw myself into the Republican Party just head first. I wanted to learn everything there was to be.
In the area you grew up in still?
Well, in Belleville.
Okay.
And I wanted to be, I wanted to get involved in my party. I wanted to be that advocate for you can be a minority and be a Republican, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. So I threw myself into the Republican Party. I became an election judge, and then my eyes were open to how, and I never ever looked at this, how the Democrats really, really cheat. And I saw it firsthand as an election judge. And we started getting people involved in the election process. I started talking to people, getting involved. It's hard enough to be an election judge and a Republican in Southern Illinois, which I call it Baby Cook County. But what's really hard is being a minority Republican. That's very hard, especially in the area
feel like
of East St.
Democratic
Louis.
leadership came after you for it?
Big time. I've had things happen to me that we're still looking back at. I had my motorcycle tampered with. I had the handlebars loosened and the back tire loosened when I started noticing a lot of fraudulent things happening with our elections as an election judge. And they could not have someone like me on the other side. So my first real run for office was trying to run against Dick Durbin in the primary. That was my first real run. And it was an eye-opener, and it was an experience.
You were challenged in the primary, I'm assuming.
I lost my primary to Mark Curran, who was a registered Democrat running on a Republican ticket. And everybody knew he was a Democrat.
Was it just the two of you?
No, it was myself, was Dr. Tarter from Springfield, Robert Marshall, who's run, I think, at least 7 to 8 times, multiple times as a candidate for Congress, for Senate, for state rep, for state senator.
Right.
He's ran for everything.
And did you get second in that primary?
I came in second. Not too bad for a first-time candidate.
And a political outsider.
Yes,
might
and a
I add.
political. Yeah, I think it was pretty good.
So how did the Republican Party treat you in that race? Did you receive a lot of help, support from the party?
No, none whatsoever. Actually, I was targeted with a hate page put up by my opponent, which is still up.
Your Democratic secret Republican opponent?
Yeah.
Or your...
Yeah, put it up with their blessing. And the hate page is still functioning to this day. not as much because people pretty much blew them off as, this is childish. This woman's proven to be a very credible Republican candidate. She's been out there fighting for us, standing up against Black Lives Matter, pushing back against Antifa. Antifa tried to file a restraining order against me and lost. Judge threw it out. So fighting election fraud, coming forward as an election judge with my statement and my testimony, helping them put away these two guys in East St. Louis. They were passing out 40 ounces of beer and $5. And there's a trick that they do. It's
for votes.
For votes.
Yeah.
It's called the barbecue plate. And what they do is they set up these barbecue trucks for free, paid by the St. Clair County Republican Party. And what they do is they show up at these locations and they give you free barbecue, but they have a double or triple plate. And under that plate is a $5 bill. Is what they do. How do I know this? Because I pretended to be a voter and I got the $5. They didn't like that. They are so blatant, open with their cheating. I had a precinct committeeman and also a city council member that was standing less than 5 feet from the door passing out flyers for the candidates, which is illegal, 100 feet from the door. I also had threats against my life at the poll by Democrats. Even the mayor came in and tried to intimidate me from Cahokia.
So the Democratic Party definitely came after you.
Oh, definitely.
Did the Republican Party at all?
The Republican Party came after me when I decided to run. I'm an outsider. I don't belong to a country club, but I do belong to Sam's Club.
That's a good place to shop.
Yeah. So,
You want some cheap pretzels that are really good?
I love their sample Saturdays.
Yeah.
So they came after me with, if you run, we're going to expose you with this picture. And I told you briefly about that picture from Sturgis. Everybody knows I'm an avid Harley rider. I ride my own Harley, and I frequent Sturgis. I mean, if you're a biker, if you're worth your salt.
That's the Mecca.
That's the Mecca. That's you're going home. And I took some pictures, and they're a bit racy. But
we don't have to get into the specifics of all that.
I'm not going to go into specifics, but they actually came to my house, and it wasn't me in the pictures. Just putting that out there, it was not me, but it's Sturgis. But they're very colorful people in Sturgis, and you're going to take pictures because you can't believe what you're seeing.
It's going to be every type of every person.
Exactly. So they decided, we're going to try to shame you into not running.
Republican Party.
Yes. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to bully. I'm not going to be bullied, and I'm not going to back down. If you're going to put it out there, put it out there. Better yet, here, let me help you. And I put it out there myself. I got in front of I stand in my own truth. That's why I tell people, you're going to be picked apart when you run for office. They're going to try to find everything they possibly can against you. I expect that from the Democratic Party, but I did not expect it from my own party. That is what really, really blows my mind about this whole situation. I don't come from an Ivy League school. I come from the school of hard knocks. I'm common sense. I love my country. I serve my country in law enforcement as well as a Navy veteran. And you would think that that would be worthy of their support, but no.
Yeah. You've got a great resume. You're a great speaker. You're obviously very competent. People love you. It's very apparent. And it looks right now like you are the strong front runner for the primary for U.S. Senate, correct?
Yes. And that's
within the primary.
Well, within the primary. And let me tell you, Matt, is very humbling. And I'm grateful, but it scares me to death because my husband said, baby, you might be the front runner. I believe my opponent, Allison Salinas, just dropped out. My thing is, my husband said, babe, it looks like you may even run unopposed. I have two more that are running against me. That's Timothy Arview from West Frankfort. I've been up there 3 times. He's never left his county. Then there is Bobby Penton out of Dundee. And he hasn't traveled the state as extensively as I have. I've been up here to the Quad City at least 3 or 4 times. I've been all the way down as far as Cairo. And the last politician they had in Cairo was in 1992, and that was Paul Simon.
Wow.
And I'm the only one. And I was there last month, and guess who showed up 2 weeks after I was there, and it was publicized that the senatorial candidate came to Cairo. Pritzker showed up to Cairo. He couldn't be shown up by a Republican candidate, so he showed up. But the people showed him. They had my signs out.
So the left is beginning to fear you.
Yeah.
And the right is not backing you.
No. You know, it's not about, I don't care if the party does not back me, the Illinois GOP. I don't care. I don't expect them to, because they didn't back me in the last time. Matter of fact, I had people in the Illinois GOP that are actually on our board, our committee members that are on the board, that sent out hate letters to all 102 counties, calling me a Democratic plant, calling me a fraud, other things I cannot mention on the radio. And this is what they do. If they cannot control you, then they're going to destroy you. And I'm not the only candidate that they did this to. And
well, as a fellow outsider candidate, I'm seeing the telltale signs now.
Yeah, you're seeing it.
Right.
And what are you seeing as far as?
Well, I don't want to get too far into it. I am trying to be very friendly with our party, but it has been very clear to me that they will protect their own.
Yeah, they will.
And that may be, but when they come forward and they say, hey, these are all the things you should do other than run.
Oh, yeah, they did me the same thing.
Yeah.
You need to be supportive. And one of the telltale signs for me was Republican Day last month. And they had a giant banner up that said Fire Pritzker, and they had all these people on the stage. And one of the organizers for Republican Day came to me, and this young lady that I know has become a great friend of mine. Her name is Philanice White. Philanice is running against Bobby Rush in Chicago for his seat, congressional seat. And I've known Philanice ever since I became a Republican. She pretty much took me under her wing. I joined the Republican Women Coalition of Illinois. I'm still a in good standing member. And she pretty much took me under her wing and showed me the ropes. And they have treated this woman with such disregard. And to hear our president, Don Tracy, say at the Republican Day, we're reaching out to minorities. Well, we're sitting right here. Nobody's talked to us.
Yeah.
Nobody's talked to us.
We see it all the time. They say, hey, we need minorities. Hey, we need young people. Well,
yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
And here we are. And they're not reaching out to us. And we want to get these young people engaged. We want to get them involved. Here you are. It's hard enough to get out here as a young man that you are and say, here I am. I'm ready for the task. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to fight for Illinois. And they disparage you.
And it's an interesting phenomenon. The things that are going on now, who has to pay for it? It's my generation. And I'm seeing people, like-minded people my age, come to our campaign from all over the state just because of that. They're seeing a new light in the party.
Exactly.
And to the people that have made it this far into the podcast, the party won't help us, but you can, whether that's a Facebook share or, best of all, a vote. I mean, visit our websites, check out our policy.
Donations would help greatly.
Yeah. Do you want to tell them your website, Peggy?
My website is peggyhubbard.org. If you want to donate, it's peggyhubbard.org/donations. If you want to volunteer, it's also peggyhubbard.org. Everything is there. I am seeing such a unreal swell of support across the state. The first election did help get my name out here. It did, and I'm grateful for that. This one now, my name is now known. I now have that name recognition. And on going back to Republican Day, the organizer was trying to corral people to sit in the audience, and they wanted us 3 Black women to sit down in the audience to show them that they're a progressive party. if you're a progressive party, have me up on the stage. Give
I'm
me
a
a
U.S. Senate
Senate
candidate.
Put me on the stage and give me a microphone. If you want to show that we're a progressive party and we're reaching across the spectrum to bring in minorities are not going to come if they're seeing you attacking a minority, such as myself. And that's what's happening.
My challenge to the Republican Party is you don't need to endorse candidates.
No.
You don't need to back candidates. You don't have much money anyways, so save it. But hold debates and hold forums. Let the best ideas win, not the most connected and the most sold out.
Exactly. And
that is not what we need.
And that's not what we need. And just because you play golf with someone, like I said, I don't come from the country club. I don't come from the elite. I didn't go to the Ivy League school.
From the outside.
Yeah, I'm an outsider. Trump was an outsider. And I think that's the reason why if you noticed, Matt, every time Pritzker or Lightfoot, I call Beetlejuice, every time they said something disparaging about our president, there was no pushback from the Illinois GOP. Every time we talked about election fraud, there was no mention from the Illinois GOP. Cops are dying. Where's the Illinois GOP?
If you want to hear a politician stutter, find an Illinois Republican, hold a phone up in front of them, and ask them how they feel about Donald Trump.
Yeah, and they will not. The man gave us great. He just.
Well, best policy president ever, and I think we should leave it at that.
Well, I say between him and Reagan, to me,
yeah.
they were.
Fair enough.
They're both good. I have to take my hat off to Reagan. The man was he was an innovator to me. He spoke to me. He actually got me to vote for him as a Democrat at that time. And here this man comes down off the escalator and says, vote for me. What do you got to lose? He didn't use vote for me. If you don't, you ain't black. Like Biden said.
Joey B.
Yeah, it's so insulting that you have to use this. And I'm finding out from the Illinois GOP, they use these same dog whistle politics, and it's unfortunate. You want to raise this money. You want to bring people into our party, but every place that I have gone in this state, I ask them, how do they feel about the Illinois GOP? They roll their eyes and say, I'm not giving them a dime of my money, because they're not showing me that they're willing to fight for us. You are willing to fight for us. Darren Bailey is willing to fight for us. Tom DeVore is willing to fight for us. You guys are out there trying to fight for us. I didn't know anything about you until the day you called me. And I was like, well, who is this young man? And I started Googling you and pulling up your information. And I'm going, why isn't he being lifted up by the Illinois GOP? He has everything that they want. He's an outsider.
We're in a primary with one of their favorites.
Yeah, he's an outsider. And you know what? It's really, really sad when you keep running the same horse in the race. We have Charlie, what's his name? Not
Helmick.
No, his Martyr, Jim Martyr.
Oh.
Jim Martyr. How many times has he ran? He ran for state rep. He's ran for state senate. He's ran for Congress. He's ran for Congress. He's ran for Congress. He's ran for Senate. He's ran for Senate. Now he's back running for Congress. How many times are you going to run? Then you have the Oberweis. You have all of these individuals that keep running and running and running. And then you have people like you and I that come in, and Mr. Bailey and Charlie Hamlick, and then you have what's the other guy that's running?
Moline.
Yes.
Glenn Evans.
Yes, and you have all these people that are trying to make a difference and trying to excite the base. It's not working. Whatever they're doing is not working.
If we keep on doing what we've done, we're going to get what we've always gotten.
What's the definition of insanity?
doing the same thing twice and
Expecting a
something
different.
different. Yeah.
Thank you, and that's what we're doing. We
Right.
are in the definitions of insanity right now.
Well, let's leave it at that, Peggy. I'll add your website below so people can link off to it. I'll
Thank
also
you.
add my website. On my website, you will see that Peggy and I will be back here with Terry Schilling from the
Yes.
American Principles Project on October 23rd,
Yes.
just down the street here in Galesburg.
Mhm.
You can come hear us talk. We're calling it the Save Our State Tour.
Yes.
It was the Save Our Schools Tour, but a lot more than the schools is
it's
going
a
on.
lot
So it's
more
the
than the
Save Our
school.
State Tour, ladies and gentlemen.
And right now, we are at critical mass. I don't believe that Illinois is bad. Everybody says Illinois is so bad. Illinois is not bad. Our leadership is bad. Our politicians are bad. This is the reason why we need term limits right here, right now. And I'm a staunch supporter of term limits. We need them.
Alrighty. Hey, I appreciate you, Peggy. Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for doing this. Let's head to the ice cream social.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
alrighty.
you. See you guys there. Please come out, support this young man, support me, and let's get our state back.
Alrighty. Hey, thanks. That was
Thank
great.
you.